1956. I was 20 years old. I took Amtrak, or it wasn't Amtrak, it was just a train, I guess. And incidentally, they still had local trains from Conway to Little Rock during the 50s. I took the train in a little compartment, had a bed, couch, a toilet, and a sink. Got on the train at 2 o'clock in Little Rock, went to St. Louis, and we did not have to go to Chicago. We just went on from St. Louis up through Illinois and wherever, Philadelphia, into New York. That was the first real train trip, and overnight, a night and a half. And I traveled all over Europe, all on trains. Long trip, but I've loved train travel ever since. I love it. One day, Sharpe and I were feeling kind of funny, and I guess we were drinking too. And I said, I'd kind of like to have a Corvette. Is that sporty car? And Sharpe kept going, I want a Lamborghini, I want a Ventura, Rosa, I want a this, I want a that. And I said, well, if the truth be known, I'd rather have a Rolls-Royce. The next thing I know, we're on the phone calling someone in Little Rock, and we said we want to see that Rolls-Royce, so we go down there and see it. Then we come back, and we have to get the money out of the bank at early in the morning on Saturday, and we go and we make the deal to get the car. Everything's happy, and then we have to. He said, "I don't take a cashier's check. I want cash." So we had to go to the bank at 10 to 12 on Saturday, Bank of America, when they were just about to close. And I said, I want to cash this check. I want this all in hundreds. He said, I don't know whether we have that much money in the bank. And I said, well, of course they did. They have rotating things. But you couldn't steal that money out in a hurry. So anyway, at 12:30, I mean, everybody was gone except us. We were still getting our money. And we went and bought, we had to go to lunch. We had all that money under the front seat of the car when we were at some restaurant. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. Chili's. I treated everybody to lunch. I'm being very generous because I knew what was under that seat if the car hadn't been stolen. So anyway, we got in, we went there and got the car. And I sat in the back seat. Sharpe drove. And we drove to Conway, and instead of going back to my house, we go to a place called TC's. It's a bar where rowdies go and play and sing and dance till wee hours. And that's the first place that my new Rolls-Royce goes. You'd think it'd go to the country club or something like that. No, it goes to TC's. Anyway, we go home. And I'm in the back seat, and people come by and nod at me, and I'm bowing like Prince Charles in the back seat. And we get home, and we have to get it in the garage. My next door neighbor says to his wife, is that a Rolls-Royce pulling up in the Dunaway's driveway? She says, no, that's a Cadillac. Next day I was out, and he yells over the fence, is that a Rolls-Royce? And I said, yes. And he said, well, sure is pretty. So then one day I was driving it to build up the batteries, and I saw him standing by his driveway. So I pulled in there and I said, I want you to look at this car. Look at the leather on these seats. Look at this upholstery on the ceiling. This car is beautiful. Look at that wood. Don't look at the fact that windows don't work or things like that. A lot of things don't work, but it sure is beautiful. He said, it sure is. He said, I'd like to have something like this. I said, isn't it strange that 2 months after my wife dies, I go and buy this car? He said, I'd have to wait 2 months to buy a car too after she died. I've been keeping a diary since 1954. The first one I thought would be so inflammatory, I decided I would write it in Spanish that no one could read it except me and the dictator of Spain. But it turned out it was so badly written in Spanish that I couldn't read it either. I have a lot of strange memories. The first year I taught at Jacksonville, and the slogan for the school was, do away with Dunaway, do away with Dunaway, which I thought kind of hurt my feelings. But anyway, the thing that would have done away with Dunaway anyway was, and probably got my license pulled forever, was a trip of the boys' state. Mrs. Cabot said, would you take the boys, chaperone the boys to boys' state? You'll miss Friday. I said, oh, well, if I'll miss Friday, I'll take them. So we went, and the first night out, the senior boys, of which I did not know one of them in class, said, Mr. Dunaway, would you like to go out for dinner with us? And I thought, well, isn't that nice? They're asking me, the teacher that has no quarter with them at all, they're asking me not to be lonesome here to go out for dinner. So we go out to this dinner, and the boys all sit down, and I sit down at the end of the table, and the waitress comes around and said, are you all, I don't know what she said, all of age, or all of you credited, or are you something? And they all said yes. She said, okay, what'll you have? And the first boy, the student council president, I'll have bourbon and water. Next day, I'll have bourbon and water. I'll have bourbon and Coke. I'll have gin, and I'll have this. I'll have that. And it got to me. Now, what I should have said was, these boys are all 18 or younger. I am their guardian. I'll have a dry martini, 2 olives, please. No, I just gave up the ghost and joined them. But I thought they had all the guts to go out here and pull this stunt, get me in on it. I wasn't going to do anything to hurt their feelings, their egos. They may have been ruined for life had I done that. So I came back and told Mrs. Cabot what we did. She said, oh, goody, goody, that sounds wonderful. But Dr. Alford, had he heard that one of his teachers had taken, 8 boys out drinking, my teaching license could have been pulled forever in practically every state in the Union. But he was a friend of my father's and my grandfather's, and he did not say a thing. He did not come away with a contract for me the next year. So I said, that's fine. That was my first year. But I wrote this all down in my diary, and how much booze was in the back of my trunk coming back from Springfield, where the meeting was, because booze was so much cheaper in Missouri than in Arkansas. So if we'd had a wreck, it would have said, high school kids and teacher killed in explosion of bourbon and gin. I taught a few more years, very unsuccessfully, at...
You taught very unsuccessfully? Okay.
I taught very unsuccessfully.
That explains a lot about me.
At Forest Heights Junior High School and Hall High School, where I resigned. Went on to write my diary about moving to St. Louis and how much I instantly love that city. I mean, it was just an instant love affair, and still is. But I wrote about my students, about the school, the students' feared me because I thought after teaching unsuccessfully, being lax at Jacksonville, lax at other schools, I will be the taskmaster. I mean, they were afraid of me. I mean, they shuddered when I walked down the hall. But they liked me. Some reason they really kind of liked me. And because they respected me, I guess. And I loved them. I definitely loved them. And so anyway, I spent several years writing about that. So I did have something to write about. Then I even write about when I did diaper change for somebody named Sharpe Dunaway. I did the one and only diaper change in my life. My wife had gone out for a luncheon meeting with a hat on with the girls at the country club or something like that. And oh God, this awful smell. It was just gruesome. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I took him to the patio. I took off that sticky dicky diaper and tossed it off to the edge of the patio. I stood him up and took the well water, which comes out colder than anything you can think of, and cleaned him up. You could have heard him in Pulaski County. It was huge, he's screaming. His face was as red as a ferret. And anyway, I put on a fresh diaper, put him off to the side, sprayed off the patio, got the poopy diaper where I put it, I threw it away or did something to it. I sprayed off the patio. The grass grew for years better at the end of that patio. Well, anyway, my wife comes home and she sees what I've done to that child, and never again are you to change diapers. What a break. What a break. I couldn't have planned this better. Look at those mounds of dirt. Isn't that interesting? They could film some moon something over there. Oh, okay. I'll get back to the subject. Mickey McGalen, which I misspelled her name horribly when I wrote it in the diary for everyone to see. I knew she wore real high-heeled shoes and could dance and make me look good. That was the greatest thing about it. I mean, she could go into a rumba or a foxtrot or whatever, and somehow I just looked like I knew what I was doing. Well, anyway, and it was other people. She knew Pendle Rock, who was Margaret Key Shelton Rock's son, who, well, there's a famous bunch of people. But anyway, for long, we were just all friends and good friends. And we were friends with Susie West and Harry Matson and everything. Harry Matson one time told her, Lewis is going to marry you. And she laughed. I didn't know about this. Harry told me later this. And so anyway, we just kind of good friends for years and years, without a single kiss. Then all of a sudden, I kind of thought, maybe we ought to get married. So Judith was getting married in New York to George, that's her sister. And I said, Mother, can I go to New York and ask Mickey to marry me? And she said, you may go to New York and ask Mickey to marry you. But if she says no, you have to pay for it. You're not just getting a free trip to New York at my expense. So I thought, well, I better not risk this, because she might say no. So anyway, a week or two later, she was back in town. And I'd ask her to marry me 2 or 3 times. Drunk. I would say, let's go to Hernando, Mississippi. We can get married over right on the spot at Hernando, Mississippi. She said, well, someday you can ask me sober. So anyway, she got back from New York, the wedding, everything. And I went over there as sober as Lewis could be. And I proposed. And she said, well, let me think about it. So anyway, George and Judah come in from their honeymoon in New Orleans. And we asked them down to come to Conway for dinner, where we put on a wonderful dinner for George and Judith and Mickey. We just put on the dog all over the place, using our best utensils. And they left, and Mickey asked Judith what to do. She said, marry him. So the next day or so, the phone rang. Mickey said, bring me the ring. And I knew which ring it was. It was my mother's 10 or 15 carat smoky topaz, beautiful ring that she had coveted for years. Well, Mother thought, well, I can get rid of this ring, but I get a daughter-in-law. So the ring she got. So anyway, we got married in December of 68, 67, 64. Oh, yeah.
I was after.
64. Anyway, she moved to St. Louis, which she never liked because she's lived there in that area before. She went to, born in New Orleans, moved to St. Louis, lived in, and went to school at Webster. Then they moved to Houston. Then they moved to Little Rock, and that's where she started school in Arkansas. Her parents kept moving up, corporate ladder to New York, where he was in charge of transportation for Monsanto or some big company. I thought, oh, well, I better get a better apartment. So I moved to another floor of this other cheap apartment building. But I fixed up this apartment real pretty. And Mickey and my mother came to shop, and I said, I've got to go to work. Just go fix your breakfast out of the refrigerator. You take care of yourself while you're here. So they go to the refrigerator. There's nothing in there but hot dogs and other things that I would have, jelly and bread. And that was just about it. So they decided if they're going to shop, they better go to the grocery store to shop. So anyway, that looks like a levee. Anyway, they shopped at Montaldo's and Saks Fifth Avenue, all the nice stores down in Maryland Plaza, and bought some things and had a good time. And sure enough, 3 or 4 months later, we got married and went on our honeymoon to New Orleans and stayed at the Royal Orleans Hotel. And that's the way they pronounce it, Orleans Hotel. So anyway, we moved back to St. Louis, pack our stuff up in moving van. I don't know how her car gets there, but her car, which left fumes for miles, came to St. Louis. Our good friend Jerry Voss bought that from her. She should be ashamed. Then we lived there until we found out she was fragrant. I called my mother. Oh, we talked every day on the phone. We'd been married about 3 or 4 years. And I said, Mother, yes, Mickey killed the rabbit. She said, hang up. She was already telling everybody in Conway. So Mickey has a very bad pregnancy. She couldn't drink, she couldn't smoke, she could not, anything that last 2 or 3 months, she was practically a cripple in her own house. So anyway, we had the child. My principal, I said, I got to pick up my wife and baby. They're coming home from the hospital. He said, well, you can't miss school to do that. I said, you want to bet? He said, oh, well, we'll get someone to fill in for you for a little while. And that was Dr. Savage. And of course, I was not gonna. What I'm gonna do is send an Uber driver over to pick him up. Anyway, didn't have Uber then. Her mother had already come down. Her mother and her father at this same time were moving at this very moment to Florida, which was also kind of disappointing because we loved to visit them in New York. Boy, I mean, we would go to the Rainbow Room, their treat. We'd go to this Hawaiian place, their treat. Oh, here's some tickets for Mana Bla Mata, their treat. Here's tickets to Mame, their treat. Here's tickets to this, Mame treat. Well, I could have just visited there. Now they're going to move to Sun City Center in Florida. Well, it could have been Detroit, but it was Florida, and it was nice to visit. And her parents were, of course, good parents. And we had our little apartment. That was the apartment we moved out. The rats got into, and we stayed there until we moved to Kingsbury Place. And then I took care of Mickey when she got sick. I had to learn a lot. First of all, she never did like to cook. So even years before she stopped cooking, we were having Marie calendars all over the place anyway. And frozen Stouffer's dinners, frozen pizzas, canned this and canned that. She did cook chickens from scratch. She cooked eggs. She cooked a few things, but generally it was pretty good. So when she got sick and I had to do the cooking, it didn't get any different. I can microwave a Marie calendar dinner as good as she can.
What'd you just say? You can fackin, F-A-K-I-N, fackin, microwave.
I fixed food best good, and sometimes she'd get strange orders. Like she wanted fish sandwiches every night, every day. I said, Mickey, I love these fish sandwiches, but I don't like them 30 days in a row. She said, well, you can microwave something else. So I did. I'd have Mexican enchiladas, and she would be happy over there with her fish sandwiches. Then I upgraded that meal because we had the fish sandwiches with French fried potatoes, also frozen but delicious, out of the thing. We moved over to onion rings, and they were really good. That improved the whole dish. I even went back to fish because of those onion rings. Okay, then it got to be a little bad, a little sad. She still wanted to have her drink every night. I would have to, but she wanted to eat in a hurry. So I timed my drinks. I had 15 minutes to have a martini, and then another martini, and another martini, and another martini, so I could have 4 martinis before I served dinner. Then we had wine, and I was really in pretty good shape. It's a wonder that I'm paralyzed today with alcohol. But we had a real happy marriage, I think. She put up with me, and I put up with a lot of her things. But she put up with more with me than I had to put up with her. So there we go. I just thought a rail trip would be fun because they were always fun for me. I always liked to travel on the train. I like to look out the window. And see what I can say.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, the dining room is calling for 11:30 lunch reservations. Calling all 11:30 lunch reservations. Just a friendly reminder that we have changed time zones, so we are doing lunch on Mountain Time. Calling for 11:30 Mountain Time reservations.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, continue.
The only reason we didn't get to Canada is because I don't have a passport. I guess we would have gone up to Alaska. And now we're going down to California. I've never been in Northern California. I lived in Southern California. Then we're coming up through Colorado. I've never been to Colorado. I've never been to Colorado.
Breathe deep.
All these things. Yeah. But anyway, and then next thing I know, we do it. And we're doing it. And I'm loving it. Except for the sleeping. And the something else thing, which I won't go into detail. I hate my medicines. I just, I have to Sharpe hand me them. Oh, and the fact that Sharpe has to be observant. Sharpe hand me my medicines. Dig in there and get those things of foods out of my suitcase. Hey, Sharpe, incidentally, this thing is going to have to put on charger again before long. Because every time I open it up, I have to see what time it is. Oh, it's still pretty good. But the people, the people that wait on us are really nice too on this trip. Everything's nice. This chair is not very comfortable. Sharpe's sitting on the toilet.